Hello everyone, good evening. Sagar this side for your network automation batch. I hope everyone are from networking background and not from the software development or web development or gaming development. All right, so to get started, as you guys know that we had conducted two demos as well. So we are organizing three more days of workshop. So in this 3 days of workshop, we will basically test Python theory. If you guys are aware the curriculum, so let me show you the curriculum of this batch. So we are starting with the first module here, Python theory. Okay. Once the Python theory is covered, then we get into Python library where we start writing automation script. And then we have Ansible. Then we move towards the REST API automation, Cisco Devnet 200901, and the projects given to you. So this is purely into networking side. If you're from non-networking side, then this is not gonna help you. So if you are only networking, then you can remain in the meeting. For some instance, you're from a non-networking guy looking for the Python as application developer, then this is not your batch. Okay. So I'm gonna cover from the network perspective, network automation. All right. So to get started, we discussed a few points in the last class as well. Why network automation and what is the benefit of network automation. So I'll just cover an overview on why network automation. Why network automation? So this is a topic that we discussed in the demo as well. So I'll just take a couple of minutes just so that all of you guys are with me here. So as you know, in your traditional networking, you usually configure, you monitor the device, you push the network firewall policies, you might fetch the backup, you might need to pull a report and send it to your management. If you think from the SDN solution, you might fetch the templates, you want to fetch the inventories, right? So these are some traditional work that we do in the enterprise. So with the help of network automation, we would like to automate such work, let the script handle it, and the engineer will monitor whether the script is performing a expected behavior or there is a bug in the script, or is there an issue with the script being not compatible with the device vendor or version. So that is what the engineer will take care of it. So in general, let's say you are taking up a backup, this can be automated. You wanna fetch some report that you can send to your management. So you have some concept of regex in the curriculum using which you can generate report. You want to configure multiple networking device, you can do that. You want to fetch the output of multiple show command, you can do that. You want to upgrade iOS, you can automate this. You want to automate SDN solutions like SD-WAN, ACI, DNAC. So you have the API automation. Using the API automation, you can automate the SDN technologies. You can prepare the compliance report. Compliance report is nothing but the standardization, the same set of configuration running on all the devices. This is called compliance report. Okay. And apart from this, the human error, you might do a lot of human error manually when you take or you take a task manually, then you do a human error. But in the case of automation, all these things you get rid of. You can automate in a better way. Also, in the case of troubleshooting, let's say you have very strict SLA, service level agreement. You need to you get a alert, you get some sort of alert. You have to do the basic check and you have to report to the next engineer. So usually this takes some time to log into the device, to remember what's kind of CLI command that you need to run to fetch the neighbor table or topology table, right? So if you have a script, you can just run, it will fetch the BGP neighbor uptime and it will tell you or reveal you which neighbor as of now is down. BGP neighbor is down. So these are all certain things that enterprise is looking right now to cut down the manual efforts. Okay, so what would you learn in this batch of 2 months? So once the actual curriculum would start, so we would be going through with the Python theory first, because this is the basic fundamental for all the coding that you would learn. Then we would go with the Python libraries. Then we go with the Ansible automation. Then we go with the API automation. Then we go with the Devnet curriculum, which is 200901. And meanwhile, I'll be giving you around 10 different projects from the network automation perspective. So you start writing your own script. If you have any scenario from your enterprise, you can also replicate that into project, or you will get my instruction on creating some project and you can work on those projects. So this is how the whole curriculum is divided. What type of technology that we would be automating? We will keep something which is standard for most of the people. So Cisco is one of them. So definitely Cisco's router and switches are something which we will use most of the time. But we will also have Palo Alto automation, FI LTM, Juniper, FortiGate, ASA firewall, Cisco FTD, and if any other that falls under your zone, like Cisco ISE, Meraki. So this I will also support you. And apart from this, I will also show you some automation in the case of SD-WAN, ACI, and DNAC as well. So these are some very frequently used technology, network technology, which you might be automating or interested to automate. All right, to get started with Python theory, I'll keep few topics for the day, like we can discuss about what is Python variable, what is Python comment, what do you mean by Python input statement, what do you mean by Python print function, what do you mean by data types. Might be this topic we can take it today. All right. So I'm gonna have some sort of quiz at the end just to see how much you have captured. Okay. So whatever I'm gonna explain next 30 to 40 minutes, just go through it. I'll also give you the reading material, PDF material that you can go through it. So those who are enrolled will get this. Those who are yet to enroll will get once you enroll to the batch. All right. So first thing, what do you understand by variables? Let me unmute you guys. Just go one by one instead of all talking together. So what do you mean by Python variable?
Hello. Variable like a container. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Variable means a container. This is contains some data, a number.
Okay. What will it store?
Uh, uh, some value like a equal to 10. 10 contain in a. That means a is a variable.
Hmm. Okay, so let's say if I want to store some data within an empty container, so I can assign in this format x equals to
Yes.
10, or if I say that username and I want to store the data of admin, or the data as admin, or let's say in the networking scenario, I'll make use of Cisco or whatever password that I want to use. Or let's say I want to store the data as SSH port number 22. Or if I want to store some enable secret, so I store something like this. So these are called the variables now, the left hand side.
So,
These are called
sir,
the variables that they are storing the data. Data can be of any type. If you see this, you have a string here, string and string. And here you have numbers. So data can be of any type. You can also keep multiple collections of data. Say, for example, I say multiple device equals to, and then I store 1.1.1.1, 2.2.2.2.2, 3.3.3.3. Now, what type of variable is this? It's of type list. What is list? List is nothing but that can hold multiple data. What are single piece of data? These are single piece of data, single data. When a single data is stored in a variable, it's a variable itself, but type string. Where when you store multiple data inside a variable, it's called of type list type as a variable. What is then variable used for? So let's say if it's a container which is used to store the data and transmit the data. Where does it transmit? Let's say I am writing my script on a machine. Let's say this is my computer. And over here, I have a router or device, Cisco device. So when I'm sending something, once the SSH transport channel is up, so I'm sending something, right? Like, say, for example, I'm sending show IP int brief. So this as a data over on the variable is going in a write channel mode. And when I'm receiving back the data for that, it's come back in a read channel. So there happens read and write channel between computer and the router. And this variable is the person who is responsible for carrying back the data. That is why when you put that command print and you store that variable, you will see the output of whatever command that you are asking to be fetched. Okay, so what variable does? Variable is a container which is used to store data of any type and transmit between source and destination. Now, is there any thumb rules for variable? So there are some thumb rules in terms of writing a variable. I cannot start any variable with number. This is wrong. I cannot have numbers in front of a variable name. So what are the accepted behavior? I can start with any letter and then I can end with the number. This is allowed. I can also go with underscore, something like this. This is also allowed. I can have alphanumeric that I already showed you like this. This is alphanumeric. This is allowed. Also remember they are case sensitive. Say for example, if you write multiple device and let's say you are assigning this, okay, but within the script while you are calling that variable, let's assume you are calling it within print statement, but you are making use of a uppercase. Now this is wrong because they are case sensitive in nature. Okay, so remember this thumb rules. You cannot start with numbers. You can have alphanumeric. You can have the underscore at the end. You can remember they are case sensitive. Okay, so these are some examples for variables. If you use inside your script, let me show you some script written in the past. So I'll tell you where are these variables. So you see the line number 4. This is one variable where this is storing the different IPs. If you see in the line number 15, this is one variable. So right now we are storing some data that needs to be sent. We are storing some variables here. We are storing some variables here. And that variable we are reading out using some print block or print function. So variables are where the data are stored. These variables can be called, these variables can be transmitted source to destination also and to fetch the data back. So to write any variable as I showed you, let's assume that you go with this example. So what did we discuss? The numbers cannot be in front of variables. So what happens if you run this? You will get an error. The error saying it's a invalid syntax. So you take that 1, 2, 3 away and add it at the end of variable. Will that work? See, it is working. Similar way, let's say you have a lowercase assigned and you are going with the uppercase like this. Now this is also invalid syntax because as I told you, there needs to be a case sensitive. So you need to use the lowercase itself like this. So this is something that you need to know from the variable perspective. Now, what do you mean by input? What is input used for? What is input in Python used as or for? Sorry?
I think it provide us a user option to write something.
Basically, it will prompt the user to input the data in a real time.
At runtime, yeah.
Okay. So let's assume that instead of you declaring some data in a static way. So let's say your script was this with along with other lines. Now you cannot give the script to anyone, neither you can keep the script with username and password on your uh, machine, because these will be against the compliance. And if someone from the compliance team catch hold of this, they can also put a penalty on those enterprise, right? That is one challenge. Second challenge, you don't want to reveal your credentials to anyone. Might be they use your credential and run the automation script, and if something happens to the device reboots or network flaps or outage, it will come on you. So this is something which is not a good practice to keep on the script. So what to do now? Let have the user input username and password in a real time perspective. So I will take out this static data, and instead of that, I'll keep something called as input function. I'll say input, and I'll keep a label. I'll say enter the username. And over here, I'll say input, enter the password. Now what happens? Whoever is executing the script, they have to enter the data in a real time. And that particular data, whatever data you are providing, that will actually get stored here. But it's a temp memory. That means once the script is run, script is terminated. Now, if the next person needs to rerun the script, the previous memory block is wiped out. He has to give the data from the very first point. So I'll show you what happens here. Let me take you to this. Let me create two variables called as username, and let me keep the input function. Let's say enter the username. And in the second line, I'll give it for password. Input, enter the password. So remember, this input is not gonna be statically assigned, or it's not a permanent assignment. It's a temporary assignment until the script is running up. Once the script is terminated, the memory will also get wiped out. You have to retype, or the next person has to retype. So if I type this, the required thing, let's say I call it as admin and password as Cisco. So this data is only till the script has been successfully executed. Now the next person comes up, and if it triggers back, you see the prompt is revoked, or the prompt is asked, or you have to retype it. Now let's say that could be another person, Tim, and might be the password is network@1234. So this is valid for that particular session. Once the session is closed from the tool, you and the third person come, and if he's executing, now he has to re-trigger the username and password. Let's say now the Bob walks in, and he has the password so and so. So input is in a real time. Whatever input the user is uh, been providing, that's only in a real time, and it's like a temp memory of your variable. It's not a permanent assignment. But let's say you don't want to get into all this, because let's say you are the person who are testing the script and you don't want this username to be rewritten every time. So that time you just give a static assignment, or you can make use of some external text file or external Excel file, and then you can read it from there if you don't want to retype every execution. Okay, so that is about input, where the executor will be prompted and he would provide the data. What do you understand by open function? What happens with Python open? What happens with open? No one is aware of.
Will it open some files?
Yeah, it is to open the files, but I'm just asking in general. No one knew about this, or this is your first time with that you're dealing with Python? I don't
Yeah,
think
it's almost the first time. That's the
Okay.
reason everyone is silent almost.
Okay. All right. So in the case of open, you basically are opening any readable file. It could be text file, it could be Excel file, it could be Google Drive. This open is integrated with multiple libraries. So let's assume that if I'm dealing with Notepad, then I can go with only open, and it will help me to achieve the reading of a file. But let's assume that I would go with Excel. Now, Excel plus open is to be integrated. Then only I can read that Excel sheet. Same goes with Google Drive. So for certain files, you need to depend on an external module. You have external modules or libraries that is needed along with the open functionality. But as such, if you use it for a text or a notepad, then basically open is when you open a file. Okay. So let's assume that I have a file which is stored in C drive. I have this file with me called as credential. This is some file. And in this file, I have stored the credential. And I want to read this information within my script, within my Python script. So how can I, being in the Python script, can read something which is kept somewhere else? Might be, let's say my script is in a D drive. Okay, my script is running in a D drive, and the file that I want to open is in the C drive or FTP or SFTP, any file transfer, or might be local drive. So to handle that, what I do is I go with the open function. I'll put that complete path here. C user download cred.text. And then let's assume that I give this a variable called x. Then I say that x dot read that particular thing for me. Okay, read that particular thing for me, and I can take a print of the whole thing. So what happens now in the output is, I, without going to that C drive, just by running the script, I can see the content of that file. So I will see the information like admin and then password, whatever is stored. So this concept is very useful when you have multiple IPs somewhere stored or credentials stored somewhere, or you have the show command, or you have the configuration line files stored somewhere, and you are pushing it via the script. So let me show you one in action. So let's say I want to read something. So first let me show you the notepad. Let's say it's stored somewhere in some corner. Okay, let me assume.
Sagar,
Yeah, go ahead.
Sagar, what will we call X in the previous example? Is this a variable or
Yeah, it is
something?
variable. So here in this path, I have a file which has some information, and assume that using the script, I want to read those device IP, and then I would like to take SSH of it and configure or do whatsoever, right? Either, see, one option is you can put all the device IP here itself. You can say multiple device and store the information here in this fashion. This is good until you have 3, 4, 5 number of devices. What if you are given a notepad with thousands of devices? So would you write them in the script and make it more lengthier? So keeping in the notepad is much simpler. You have thousands of device. It's very easy for you to maintain. But if in case you want to bring it inside your Python script, now it is bit messy for you. You become like you have to sort it out. Let's say one IP from somewhere has to be removed off. So there are things, the arrangement becomes difficult. Same goes with credential. You would not like to keep your credential on the script, but you can keep it somewhere in a corner, something like this. You can keep it here, and then you can read that file so that no one is aware what information or what credentials you have stored somewhere in the notepad. So these are the different aspect why you need open here. So now let me read something from one of the file. So I'll go with the open function. Within the open function, I'll keep the entire path. Now I may not be receiving the entire path. So what I will do, I'll go to C drive, user. This is the complete path. Okay, from the window operating perspective. So I'll take this, I'll keep it here. Now I'll tell which file I want to read it. Let's assume I want to read this file. So I'll take the title of this file, keep it here. Okay. Now this information has to be treated as a single data. So to treat that as a single data, I have to convert that into string representation. So I'll keep that inverted comma here. Now this is the whole path within open function, and I have to read it out. What I will do next, I will say print multiple device, read that variable multiple device, and print this on my output terminal of this tool. So I need not to go anywhere. Let's say I close this file too. I don't know, or I have no permission access to this. I can still read the content of that file. So if I execute this, okay. Okay, let's assume C user. Fine. So let's assume that I also keep something called as raw. See, what happens here is sometimes this path can overlap with the operating system. So let's assume that this path has something like this. So now this gets treated as one of the Python behavior to go to the new line or the next line. So what happens is this sometimes break it. So what we usually do, we either keep the escape illegal characters by having a forward slash, or we can also keep something called as R. R stands for raw. Okay. And then let's assume that this is a file that needs to be read only file. So I say this file to be opened, read only, and I want to read the content of it. So let's assume X equals to multiple device, read the content, and then let's say print X. So if you see now, you have these three details. So where are these three details coming from? These three details are coming from this file. Okay. Now, if you make any changes on this file, let's say you add some more data here, and you run the script, you will see the updated data reflecting. So this method becomes very helpful while you store some credential. Let's assume that you have a credential file. So if you'd like to read the data stored within the credential file, so keep it here, replace that file name and execute this, you will see the credential. You have the credentials stored. And these credentials you can store in the respective username, password, and secret, and then can be called by a different line for your SSH and other things. All right. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Sagar, what is this R you wrote in the last of this first line? R with inverted comma, or yeah.
Okay. So the first R is RAW, which is to deal with the path. So that anything which overlap with Python's behavior, you know that /n represent go to new line in Python. So we don't want the path to be somehow getting broken up due to something appearing as a Python behavior or Python functionality. We don't want that to be broken up. If you break that path, then you will also miss the reading of the file. So the maintaining the path as it is very important. That is why we give that raw in front of the path. You can either go with raw method, or you have to remember give a escape illegal character. So you have to put that additional forward slash in front of each one of this. So this way you can tackle that, so that you don't
But
get
Cigar will still reference the correct location on the local device when you use the double slash. Will it know you're inferring a single slash?
Yes, so that will exclude that second slash from that. The Python will exclude the second slash. It will be treated as single slash to get the exact path. And the same time, if you have any Python behavior or functionality, that will also be overridden using this. So
Okay.
this is where you can go with this option, first option, or else you can go with the raw option. If you go with raw option, you don't have to put that. So the first R deals with this, whereas the second R is for read only file. So as per lowercase r, the file needs to be already present. If the file is not present, then it's gonna give you an error saying that the file or directory is not found. So remember, while you read something, or the purpose is to read the content, then that file must be present. So you can go with the lowercase r at the end. And this is optional because by default, open has this. By default, open has R inserted. If you're creating a file, then you would replace R with either this or either appending, either this A. So if I go back and I tell you that if I remove this, it should still fetch me the same thing, because that R is optional in the case of open function, but not the other operations here, not the other operators here. So let's assume that this file is not present and you are making some typo. You have some typo in the file title and you are trying to read that. This will fail. It will give you an error called as no such file or directory, because that R, the R at the end, it can only read, but it cannot create. So how would you create something at this respective path? So for that, you have to replace R with either W, or you can go with A, appending. So to some extent, W and A has very identical properties, but also they have some properties which are different than each other. So let me first show you in the case of W. If you go with W and you would like to create something at this location, okay, some file, and you are basically trying to write something over on that empty file, that this is the first line, okay, and let's execute this. So once you execute that, that file should come over here. See, you just created one small file, and when you open that, that file is over here and you have the first data. Assume you are executing it for the second time, and the same file you want to create it, and you have a updated data, and the next engineer walks in and he executes the script. So what will happen with the data that was stored inside this? That will be flushed away. The previous data was flushed and the new data pitched in. So what happens with W is they will create the file if the files are not present. But if the files were already present with some data, the next execution is gonna flush out the previous data. It's gonna overwrite the data with the fresh data that you would like to send. So let's assume I will send the third line onto the same file. So you will see the previous data gets flushed out and we have the updated data. So this can be good in some circumstances, some scenario, but sometimes this is not going to help us. So in this case, we can go with appending in nature. So if I delete this file altogether and I start with the first line, let's see whether A can also create a file, because the file has been deleted by me. So you see that file has been created. So A and W has an identical property that they both can create the file, right? So this is one of the identical property. Now, what about with the data overwriting? I said first line got printed. Now I'm trying to go with the second line on the same file. Let's see what happens to this file. see what happens to the file. The new data is trying to get appended at the bottom of the previous data. So if you run it for one more time, you will see the fresh data getting appended. A stands for appending. Let me show you by having this written for one more modification. Let's say this is the third line, and then I execute this. So let me go back to that folder, this file, and you see the data here. Okay. Now, if you want them in a separate line, then I'll show you what needs to be done. You have to put /n. That means go to the new line. So let me show you what I'm referring to. So let's say I keep it here. The file will get generated. You have that small file. I'll also execute for the second time. The data will get appended. I'll also execute for the third time. So you will see the file with all the three data appended one below one. Now this is called appending. This is good from some perspective. From networking side, this is good from some perspective, but not from all the perspectives. Let's assume, let me give you some scenario. Let's say the scenario was you are taking backup. So tell me, which one would you go? Would you go with A or would you go with W? What would be your choice?
A only.
Why A?
So that we can get back to any backup at any point of time if it is needed.
But only one file is getting generated. You have one file for a backup. You have the backup taken for 17th Jan, the same 18th Jan. Now, how would you import back, or how would you refer back for backup of 12th Jan from this, if this keep on increasing? Right? You got my point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the case of taking the backup, we always prefer to have the backup taken from the day perspective. So this is good option in that scenario. You can create a backup in this sort. Something like this. So for this, you need W so that it can create new file, and you can attach the timestamp to that. Something like this. Now you will have a backup for last 6 months. You receive a ticket which says that there was a alert on 20th Jan. So you can quickly go back, and in case you want to check or see if there was some changes done or something, you can quickly get that. So in this case, W is better. Now I'll tell you about A in some scenario. Let's assume scenario like pre and post. You have been assigned a maintenance window. You're executing some iOS upgrade. So you are collecting pre and post. So what would you like to do is, you will collect one single file where it will have 1.1.1 pre-config lines, whether the lines were executed properly or not. And in the same file, you would also like to keep your post data. So you see that what happens after the iOS upgrade. Do you have the protocol converging? What is the uptime? What is the clock? So it's easy for you to compare the same configuration of a pre and post on the same single file. So for this, you need A in nature, appending in nature. So the data get appended to the same file rather than two different files. Now, in case you want to open pre and post, you have to open two different files, keep side by side and check. But let's assume you have the same file which is having pre and post. It is easy for you to compare. So this is way, depending upon scenario, You can go with W or you can go with A. So both will create the file. W will overwrite the previous data and put the fresh data, whereas A will append the data at the bottom of your previous data. And the way to write is, once again, if you are reading something, as I told you, give the complete path, and this remains optional because by default that will take read only. And then you can assume, you can say that x dot read, and then you can print that particular y. So now what happens is you get the content of that particular file, the text file that you are referring to. In case of your writing or in case of your creating, so in that case, open R, define the path, and you will decide whether to go with A or W, any one. Then you will go with X equal to write, because now you're writing some content. Let's say this is backup, or you want to put the backup for show IP into brief or something. And this is where the file is getting created for you with the data that you are writing it here. So this is what happens in the case of open method. All right. Yeah.
If I want to write the new file with the date, so what variable or what function I need to use?
So when
Like,
when you want to introduce the concept of timestamp, you have to introduce some external modules. There are modules like import time. Using this import time, you can fetch the respective time there, and that time you can store inside some variable, and that variable you can use it here while you are creating it. Say, let's say you were creating the file path, so you can store here that you can say that timestamp, whatever the variable you are using, you can use it up here. Now what happens along with that file name, the timestamp will also get considered. So that is how the timestamp is being associated.
noted.
Okay. All right. What is print function?
To print something.
Yes. So print is to print a message on the screen of your tool. Let's assume I have this machine. I'm running the tool like Microsoft Visual Studio or PyCharm or any other Python IDE. I am executing any command like show IP, int brief, show clock, whatsoever. So that execution will happen on the device side, on the machine side, it will happen. But how am I as a user will see what is happening on the device? Is the command getting triggered, or the command is failing due to I'm triggering a non-compatible command on the platform, right? If I trigger some wrong command like this, let's assume this is a safe firewall command. If I trigger on router or switch, definitely that will fail. So if it is a good output or a bad output, how would I see on my screen? So for that, I need to bring a print function. So I'm making my computer to talk. Talk to whom? Talk to myself, so that I as a user can see what's going on. If it is a good output, then I can see the output of show IP in brief, show clock, show version, whatever. If there is a problem with my command, or if my connection is not good, or if my transport channel got disconnected due to user credentials or something, then I get an error which is revealed to me in this application, saying that your username password could be wrong, or Your port number could be wrong, or your device connection is not good. So some error I would see. So this is also very important. So print is a function to print a message on the screen of your computer. So some time back, in the case of Python 2x, this used to be written bit different, something like print, and then we used to write it something like this. But nowadays, the way to write is using this, okay, this one, print and the message, or you can also print a variable. This is also possible. You can print a variable, or you can print the data as well too. So for example, if you see some script here, you're printing on some steps, like for example, you're printing here on the line 19, you're printing on line 16. So you can add print multiple times, but including too many print also will give your output screen all flooded with lot of labels or messages. So it's not good to have lot many print statements, but it's your choice. You can suppress any print statement by just disabling them or by commenting them. So what I did right now is I put this line 16 into comment section. So in case of Python as a language, programming language, to comment any line, you can go with the hash symbol. So this comment varies language to language. So in case of CSS, you have something like this, where you can write a bunch of lines, and then you can start and end the comment indication. So whatever you kept within that, it will act as a message or some sort of labels. So these are nothing, these labels or message are nothing but to be meant ignored. They will be present in the script. You can comment it. They come back into life. But even whenever you comment, it's basically that you want to keep some time, but also you don't want to trigger it out. Too many print, as I told you, is not good. So in that case, you disabled it. But let's say for some reason you want to also check the behavior. So you can just bring it back. Or sometimes, let's say you want to put some nice label. This is output for show IP int brief, something like this, some sort of readable statement. So you can keep those statement as well in the inside the print function. Comment, I have already told you, it's when you want to put a line into non-actionable item. So in the case of Python, you have this symbol. So these were few basic things: print, comment, variable, input, output. Coming to data types, we have single data and collections of data. Single data are represented by string and number. Now, not all the time you deal with the single data. You deal with multiple devices, multiple IP devices, multiple CLI commands, multiple configuration line. These are some scenarios where you deal with multiple data. So for that, you need array or also collections of data, right? So you have list, you have a dictionary, you got set, and you got tuples. You might be thinking, why so many? Why could not we had only list to handle all the data? So the reason is they differ by properties. We'll discuss the property might be in the next class, but let me tell you, they differ by some properties. Properties like, are they mutable? Are they allow the duplicate data? Are they indexable or not? Are they sortable? So these are some property which we'll read tomorrow in detail, which makes list different from dictionary or set different from tuples or vice versa. Okay, so all these four have a different properties. So I'll explain you what is mutable, what is duplicate, what is indexable, what is sorting or sort. Now come to string and number, single data. Let's say I have one piece of data like this. I have something like this. I have something like this. These are all examples for string characters. For numbers, let's say this is what I have. It could be a port number like this, like this. These are all numbers. So what are strings? Strings are characters. How do you represent? You can represent them with single inverted comma or double inverted comma. You can keep any characters. You can keep it as this. Well, this also is now treated as a character. You can also keep something like this. This is also characters. You can keep something as this. Now this is also acting as a character. It's not acting as a number. This is acting as a character. Or you can also represent with two double inverted commas, something like this. Okay. You can also go with like this or two inverted commas. Now what is not allowed here is you cannot go this is wrong. Or now this is also wrong. Why? Because I started with single inverted comma, but I'm ending that with a double inverted comma. So it's a wrong pattern. You start with single inverted comma and end with single inverted comma, which is right. You can start with double inverted comma as well as you can end with double inverted comma. That is also right. But this is also not a true condition or a right condition. You're starting with double inverted comma, but you end with a single inverted comma. So remember this pattern. And regarding the numbers, you have integer, float, imaginary. So imaginary deal with some complex number. They are used in the arithmetic. So I'm gonna exclude that from now or from this. We don't need this. Float is from the decimal perspective. Let's say 2.5, 1.1.8. Now, inside networking, we don't deal with any decimal number. That's why we also don't see much things in the float scenario. So for us, the integer is important. Like for example, this is an integer, whole number. Let's say you have 443 integer. You have let's say 8030. These are all numbers. Which type? Integer type. How do you assign it to variable? You can assign it like this, like this, like this. You go with x equals to 1, y equals to 2, Z equals to X plus Y. So what is the result? 3 is the result. Because these are our now numbers. And you are making use of the operator which adds up the two data. So characters are different, the strings are different, numbers are different. Remember that. And both are representing single data that can be held here. All right, so quick questions now. I would like people to attempt this and let multiple people have the opportunity. Let me say, let me put some things here. Let's say so tell me what is the right way of writing the print statement?
Line number 8, print hello.
What
line
about
number 8.
okay? What about others?
Second might be correct, as I guess.
Second is what? Line number 3.
Echo under column hello.
Okay.
But echo is the
Echo is
Well-
not sure.
line number 8 only.
The first one is wrong because the colon is there.
Yes.
Okay, so in Python to print, we make use of print statement. So line 8 would be correct. Okay. Echo, curl are all for different language. This is in Linux, we use curl.
Okay.
All right. Now, quick enough, be quick enough. Multiple people, if answer is good. Let's say I want to comment a line. So let me give the different possibility. This is comment. Let me first finish, then you can answer. Okay, so how do we comment in a right way?
Line number 5 has
Fifth.
Line
By
number?
using hash.
5.
Okay, anybody?
Line
Has-
number 5.
Okay. All right. So line number 5 is the way we make use of comment.
comment.
Okay. Now let's assume so tell me what is not right in this, which line is
Line
not
number
right?
3.
Line number 3.
And 2 and the
Line
3.
number 3.
Due to start with number.
What about others?
Line number 2 and line number 3.
Correct. 2 and 3 is the wrong
Why
way.
line number 4? What is problem with line number 4?
Third.
Mm.
Okay.
Or,
It will be considered as a string. Line
Yeah.
number 4.
Yes, we can consider it as a string. Fourth one.
Okay. So what is wrong? Which line is wrong?
Line
Only line number 3 is wrong.
Yeah. So line number 3 is wrong because that digits are in front of it. Rest, this can be treated as a character. This is number stored here. This is characters
Yes.
stored here. Okay. So they are all
Yes.
okay. Let's assume x equals to 100 and so which line represent number 100.
Second one.
Both
Line number 1.
are both 1 and 2 is good.
Line
Both are
number
good, I
4.
guess.
Both both are
Both are
only
good.
line number 1. That is the
Uh,
integer. The other one
line
is
You can consider the string, like first one.
line number
Line number
1
one is
and
correct.
2. Line number 1 and 2 both are integer.
Okay, so here the answer would be 4 because x equals to 100 is by default integer.
Integer.
And in the method second, we are converting into
Convert
integer.
integer.
So this method is called Python casting, when you convert some data to another data type.
But if we put y equal to 100 also, if we put x plus y, it will show 100 100. It will not. It will not treat as a integer in that case.
Which one?
The first one, if you put x equal to 100 and y equal to 2, also 100 or 200. If you put x plus y, it will show 100 plus 100. It will not treat as an integer. The first one.
It will take as integer only because we don't have any string representation.
Okay, fine. I got it. Yes.
Okay. So these are numbers only right now. So this is also representing number, and this is also representing number. This is called Python casting, when you convert something to something.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so answer 4 will be technically good, like both 1 and 2 is good to represent.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now which is Python file extension from below option? PYT, yeah, let's say .yml, .py, let's say Python. So which one is the right way?
.py.
For 5. Line number 5. .py.
Fifth one is right.
Line number 5.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So let's say so what would be the answer?
100 plus 200.
200.
100 plus 200.
Plus 200.
Yes, sir.
Because
100
they are
200.
100 200.
Yes, sir. Actually, this is a string.
Anyone with 300?
No, sir.
Yeah, this is a string now.
Okay. So the answer will be 100 200. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Because they are getting concatenated. Okay, concatenated is a word that can also be used for referring to join two data. Concatenation. So your concatenation, you're joining two data, combining two data, X and the data of Y together. Now, in case you want to really sum it up, what can be done?
Now will be
You have to remove
100.
the y as well. Two integer.
Okay, tell me now, tell me at the present scenario, is this right?
No,
And if it is right, why it is right? And if it is wrong, then why it is wrong?
You need to convert y to the integer using Python casting.
Sir, it
You
is
cannot
right,
convert.
sir.
You cannot convert number and string.
Yeah, you can create
cannot
another
add.
variable. You can do that.
No, what is the error? Tell me what is the error?
You cannot add integer and string.
One is integer and one is a string.
Okay, see here, they are two different data types. So remember, you cannot concatenate two different data types. The data type should be same. Either it will be string plus string, you get result as string, You can have number plus number, result will be number. But you cannot concatenate a string with number. It will give you a problem. Either you can convert from one data type to another. So in this case, what I will do is I'll add int, because I'm converting this to look like as number. This is called Python casting. And then I can submit like this. Or instead of keeping int here, you can also keep it at this step also, like this. Like this, you can keep it. And then it will give you the end result of 300. Okay, so with data types have not come yet, so I don't want to take anything for data types as of now. Let me know if you have any question. We can have a quick Q&A. Otherwise, we will wrap up and we will connect tomorrow at the same time.
Sagar, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can variable start with an special character?
Yes, you can have those special characters kept there. Okay, like some of the special characters are allowed, not all of them. If you want to keep underscore at the beginning of this, so underscore is allowed. So let's say if you want to go with modulars or percentage, so this will give you a problem. So some special characters you can use, but not all of them.
We can use it in between, right?
Yes, in between you can use it. All right, so should I treat it as no question for the day?
Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can you give again example for input command?
Sorry?
Can you give again example for input? How do we use it?
For input command.
Exactly.
Yeah, so say for example, you want to capture input for username. Enter the username. Okay, and let's also take a print of that variable. So if I run this, it's gonna ask me for that in the real time. If you see that lower half of it, then I say enter, and using that second line, I have printed it out.
Any password? Any username?
Sorry,
Any username?
can you be a bit louder? I am not able to get you.
Excuse me, any username, or I have to assign username?
You can use username that is provided to you, which is a working username. And are you referring to the variable, whether it should be username or it could be anything?
It can be. It can be from variable. It can.
See, this is just for your example to understand for input. Username, you can keep username 123. You can keep a short form of user, whatsoever you want, you can keep it. And the data that you would be entering, like in case I put admin, because let's say that admin is created within the AAA or within the local device. So I put admin. So in your case, if it is network or your username is Cisco, so you have to type that accordingly.
Okay, what happens if you type other username?
You mean other person username. So once the other person username is typed, that particular data will go and sit in the variable.
And
I
for
told you,
example,
right?
if you
This
type,
is a temporary block. As for execution, the data will be asked and data will be stored in the variable. Okay.
I
So
got it.
if I run now, my username is admin, I will get through it. Now let's say you will come, you are using the script and your username is network. So you will use that. So it's the username which is configured inside the box, either with the AAA server with the help of local username password. So that has to be configured within the Cisco devices.
I got it.
Yes, any further question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
What about if we're using LDAP or radio server to authenticate the user, right? Would we like define that the IP address of that LDAP server and forward request and pull the username password from there?
Yeah, there are certain API requests that we can initiate on LDAP server, and we fetch the details of username and password. And then we can integrate with the script to take them.
But it wouldn't look like this, right? Just creating a variable. This is like for a one-to-one, I would say. Or
Yeah, so in the case of the inventory management, you can go with the API calls for that LDAP server, which you can integrate at the top of the script. So you can fetch the detail using API, and then you can assign it to the variables that will be used later on.
right. Gotcha.
Okay. So Shubham and Srinivas, you got any question, or I see you have unmuted?
No, nothing from my end.
Okay. Yeah, Vinay, you have any question?
How about the recording of this video and the PDF file which you were saying like we'll get after the class, considering I am the enrolled student?
Yeah, so this video would be given in the web portal. So I think you will receive that web portal tomorrow. The link will be sent in the form of welcome kit email. You will have the access. Our videos are located at this website. So just wait for some time for the account
Sagar,
creation.
is there any web application available, or should we have to access directly through the
You
portal?
will receive an email that will have all the details. Okay, so this is a public facing website, learn.networkjourney.com. Once you have your own credential, you will log into that, click on my course, and the recording of each classes would be inside that.
Okay.
So the web portal access, lab, home lab, that's pending due. So you will start receiving from tomorrow onwards. Okay.
So, so after 3 days, that is today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow. So the regular one will be starting after that, or is it
No,
going to be
this
the
is a
continuation?
regular one only. From today onwards, it's a regular one only. Starting with the curriculum only from now. So no more repetition.
Okay.
Okay. All right, guys. So I'll wrap up for now, and we connect tomorrow at same time. Have a nice day.
Yeah, same to you.
Thank you, Sagar.
Thank you, Sagar.
Same to you. Bye.